Karen rushed home from the farm and immediately began tidying up the house. She made pies, started soup on the stove, and shook out blankets and rugs in the yard, causing a lot of dust to fly around. Her neighbour, Mrs. Carner, peeked through the fence and asked curiously, "Hello, Karen. Why are you cleaning so thoroughly? Is there an important event coming up?" Karen wiped the sweat from her forehead and replied, "Oh, Mrs. Carner, there is. My daughter called, and she's coming home today with her city beau to introduce him to me, and he's not just any guy. Neil is from a wealthy family, so I've been busy since early in the morning." The elderly neighbour just clicked her tongue and said, "Congratulations, well done, Sandy, for catching yourself a prince. So you'll be a big shot now, huh? Be careful not to get too full of yourself." Karen sighed. "Oh, what if this groom doesn't like something? We're just simple countryside people, not on equal footing with the rich. I'm worried." In the evening, the guests arrived. Karen dressed up in a decent dress to welcome her daughter and her fiancé. However, she was needlessly nervous. Neil turned out to be a completely simple, open and sociable young man who was not arrogant at all and behaved very respectfully. He praised the meal, saying, "Thank you, everything is so delicious. It doesn't compare to restaurant food, and overall, your home is so nice and cosy." Sandy was beaming and couldn't take her eyes off her fiancé. She started an important conversation. "Mum, we came here for a reason. Neil's parents want to meet you personally because everything is serious between us. We're planning to get married. They invite you to the restaurant for dinner next week. Will you come? It's very important to me. Please understand." Karen felt a chill inside. "Oh, sweetheart, why go straight to a restaurant? We could just sit at home like a family. I'm just a milkmaid, not used to going to such places, and I don't even have decent clothes to wear. And by the way, will you be there too?" "No, my parents said that only they and you would be there, so to speak, a private meeting." Neil replied, "Don't worry so much, everything will be fine. It's only a couple of hours. After all, that's how the tradition goes. The parents have to discuss everything and get to know each other better. Soon we'll be one big family." Sandy sighed. "All right, my darlings, just for you, I'll be there. I'm so glad you met, fell in love with each other, such a good couple." After the dinner, Sandy showed Neil her childhood photos. "Look, this is me at 5, wasn't I funny? And this is at my high school graduation. There were only 12 pupils in my class, but we were such good friends. So, how do you like it here? It must be wild, right? Little houses, forests and fields around. You know, I loved it so much as a child, when it was freezing cold outside, to climb on the couch with my cat and warm up. It was so sweet to sleep there." Neil tenderly kissed his bride-to-be. "Don't worry, my dear, I like it here. I'm okay with you coming from the village. What's the big deal? People live differently. Not everyone is as lucky as me to have rich parents. But that's not the most important thing, is it? After all, many girls in my course were interested in me. But you know, they're all like they came off an assembly line. Beautifully and fashionably dressed, battling their fake eyelashes, but they have nothing in their heads. They only dream of being taken to restaurants and given gifts. They're obsessed with their phones, taking selfies and puckering their lips like ducks. It's ridiculous. But you're different. Real. You have a subtle but such an enticing natural beauty, and you're smart. I find you so interesting. So, after our parents meet, discuss everything, I'll get my degree, and then we'll get married." Sandy was melting from such sincere words. She hugged Neil and whispered, "I love you so much, Neil. You're the best. Remember that." The moon shone dimly through the curtains. The groom had been snoring sweetly, curled up in a funny position for a long time, and Sandy lay there dreaming of their marriage, also remembering her childhood and youth. All her childhood passed in this quiet village. She grew up only with her mother, as her father Joseph died when she was only 2 years old. The girl hardly remembered him, Only the portrait in her mother's room reminded her of him. Her mother loved Sandy very much and tried to make sure her daughter was fed and dressed, saving money whenever possible. She worked as a milker, getting up early in the morning and running to the farm. Her hard work left her mother exhausted, with hurting hands from carrying heavy cans and managing the household alone. The girl felt sorry for her mother because she was so beautiful, with long blonde hair, blue eyes and dimples on her cheeks. Even now, despite years of hard work, Karen looked good. Although she had long forgotten what normal care and cosmetics meant, there was no time for outfits in the countryside. A down jacket, jeans and knee-high rubber boots. That was the whole closet. It was Karen who persuaded Sandy to go to the city after finishing school. "Sandy, my dear, go to the city. I've saved some money for you. It will be enough for now. Try to enroll. Maybe you'll find a job. What do you have to do in the village? Go to the farm? Look at me, at my hands. My legs are swollen and my veins now bulge. You didn't finish school with an honour for nothing. Maybe you'll be lucky. And if not, you can always come back. I only ask one thing of you. Be careful with guys. I understand everything, youth, passion and love. But don't rush to give yourself away without looking back. Don't jump into the abyss head first. You see for yourself how hard it was for me to raise you without a husband. So be a clever girl." And so, Sandy found herself in the big city. Although she studied excellently, she did not manage to get into full-time education. Sandy was so upset that she sobbed right on the steps of the college. Everyone had already dispersed. The building was empty, but she still sat there, not knowing what to do now. It would be shameful to return to the village. How could she even look her mother in the eye? After all, she believed in her. Stay here? And then what would she live on? Suddenly, a guard approached her, asking who she was and why she was crying. Sandy herself did not know why she told her everything. The elderly woman looked closely at the young girl, pitied her, and offered her some advice. "Tears won't help you here. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not the first and you're not the last. You didn't get into full-time, so what? Go to distance learning. It's better than nothing. I heard that a place in the library opened up. I'll ask for sure tomorrow. If it works out, I'll arrange for you to be there. They pay a little, but you'll live somehow, and the work is clean. Just be careful. If I vouch for you, don't let me down. Don't skip work. Work conscientiously." Sandy even brightened up. "Oh, thank you, I agree. Don't think I'm like that. I'm a villager. My mummy raised me strictly. I'll try not to disappoint you. You came up with such a great idea. I didn't even think of a distance learning. I'll go apply for documents tomorrow." Sandy settled down slowly in the city, working diligently in the library. She even liked it because she had loved reading since she was little. Her studies were also going well, and she was nearing her diploma. It was here at her workplace that she met Neil. This guy with stylish, expensive glasses came over here to study, took a lot of literature, and studied everything from cover to cover. At first, they simply spoke politely, then became friends, and then one day, Neil stayed up late to escort Sandy home. They didn't have to walk far, as the dormitory was nearby. Sandy smiled and said, "Thank you for walking me home. I'm not inviting you in for tea. We have a strict watchman who doesn't like strangers wandering around." Neil suddenly took her hand and said, "Sandy, I really like you. Can I take you on a date? Tomorrow at around 8 o'clock. Sandy was happy, agreed. "But don't do anything foolish. Don't think that just because I'm from the village, I don't know what morals are here now." Neil laughed and put his hand to his temple. "Yes, my general, no foolishness. Just movies and ice cream. Sound good?" So they started dating, and there were kisses and walks under the moon. Neil took Sandy to a restaurant a few times, but she didn't like it there. It was beautiful, delicious, and had great music, but it wasn't cozy. She preferred walking along the embankment, feeding ducks and enjoying nature. The most unforgettable experience for the girl was the boat ride. She was in delight. her emotions overflowing. Meanwhile, Neil's parents became furious and disapproved of his relationship with a village girl. They believed that such girls only looked for rich fools to marry and settle down in the capital. Neil brought Sandy to his parents' luxurious house several times. But every time, his mother Faith looked at Sandy as if she wanted to incinerate her, pursing her already thin lips, so the girl hurried to leave this inhospitable home as quickly as possible. His father, George, even quarrelled with Neil, trying to explain the obvious truths to him. "Son, I saw your Sandy. What did you find in her? She's just a grey mouse, no shine, no glamour, and she's from the backwoods. Why are you hurrying to marry her? How will you support a family? And where will you even live? In her dormitory? Or will you drag her here? Your mother won't survive that. Just have fun with her for now, but nothing more, and then we'll see." Such clashes occurred more and more frequently, and Neil put the issue on the line. If they didn't stop bothering him, he would leave home. This option also did not suit his parents, as their son was the only one and beloved, and they could not lose him. And then his mother came up with a very wicked and cunning plan. Sandy's mother didn't know anything about sneaky intrigues and was preparing for a formal meeting with the future groom's parents. She asked the wife of the chairman for a beautiful dress and spent the whole night with curlers that had been lying around unused for about 20 years. Her friend did a beautiful hairstyle and light makeup and gave her pumps and a fashionable purse for the evening. Looking at herself in the mirror, Karen smiled and was satisfied with the result. And her friend just clapped her hands. "Karen, you're just a star. You're so beautiful. You're not meant to milk cows. You're meant to strut on the catwalk. Well, good luck." Karen crossed herself. "Thank you, Maggie. I'm so nervous. I'm shaking all over. I'll drink some valerian. I hope everything goes well. My heart just feels like something's not right. What am I supposed to talk to them about? I've never been to the Maldives or eaten lobster. We don't have enough money for the wedding. Will they even understand me? Well, whatever happens, happens. I'm off." After 2 hours, Karen timidly entered the expensive and pompous restaurant. She looked around and admired the mouldings on the ceiling, the reproductions of famous artists on the walls, and the overall luxury and brilliance of the place. A waiter approached her and asked, "Good afternoon, do you have a reservation?" Karen replied, "Hello, yes, number 8. My relatives should be waiting for me there." The waiter led her to the table and said, "Here is your table. Everything is already set, and the guests seem to be already celebrating. Enjoy your time." Karen looked at 6 expensive and elegantly dressed men and women who greedily ate expensive and exquisite dishes and drank wine from many years of aging. She couldn't understand what was happening or where Neil's parents were. She remembered them well, having once seen their photo, but absolutely unfamiliar people were sitting at the table. Karen touched the man sitting at the edge and asked, "Excuse me, I don't understand anything. Where are Faith and George Runette? I was told they would be waiting for me here." The man took a sip of wine and replied, "I don't know. Faith invited us to a banquet to get to know you, ordered refreshments, said you were paying for everything, and then abruptly left. You're Karen, right? We were surprised by her generosity, but apparently this is how it is done where you are from. By the way, the food here is divine. The oysters are the freshest. Why don't you sit down and eat? Can I pour you some wine?" Blood rushed to Karen's head and she felt sick. What a surprise her relatives had arranged for her. She feverishly thought about how to pay for this luxurious banquet, as she didn't have extra money in her wallet. There was nothing to do but sit down and have a glass of wine to drown her sorrows. Nothing to lose. If you must go down in flames. At that time, some singer was trying to perform on stage, but she clearly had no hearing or voice, and the visitors began to whistle and shout to remove her from the stage. It was really impossible to listen to. Memories flooded Karen. After all, she too had once studied at a music school and had big hopes. Her main childhood dream was to become a singer and perform on stage. Wine and shock from what had happened hit Karen's head so hard that she suddenly stood up, walked resolutely straight to the stage, took the microphone, looked around at the audience and started singing. Suddenly, everyone in the hall fell silent. The orchestra immediately picked up the melody and played along, and the audience began to applaud. Many whispered, "This is divine! What a talent!" Such an emotional and sincere performance had never been heard in the restaurant before. Even the director ran out, and the hall exploded with applause, and people demanded more. Richard Haber, the director, ran up and asked the waiter, "Who is this? And what is she doing on our stage?" He just shrugged and said, "Just a woman who decided to sing. But her voice is really wonderful, don't you agree?" The director walked closer, looked closely and gasped. He then started clapping louder than anyone else and shouted, "Karen, you're great!" The woman, hearing the familiar voice, looked at the man and could barely stand on her feet. It was him, Richard, her first and strongest love. She blushed and stepped down from the stage. The man rushed to her and said, "Karen, what a meeting! It's been so many years, and you're still as beautiful as ever. And your voice! How did you end up here? Are you celebrating something?" Karen bitterly smiled and replied, "Yes, Richard, I'm celebrating the last day of my life." He was surprised and said, "Come on, don't say that. Explain, what's going on?" Karen couldn't hold back her tears and suddenly burst into them. "My in-laws arranged a surprise for me. They asked me to come to the restaurant, gave me the name and table number and said that we'd get to know each other. They ordered an expensive banquet and invited strangers, and I'm supposed to pay for it. Can you imagine? They knew perfectly well that I'm a milkmaid from the village, and I don't have any money. They wanted to show off and embarrass me. Isn't it great? Are they good relatives? Poor daughter, she doesn't suspect anything, and their son Neil seems like a normal guy. I was so happy for them. And now what? I've decided to sing my sorrows away. They'll kick me out of the restaurant anyway, and maybe they'll even call the police now." Richard called over the waiter and said, "I'll pay for this banquet. Got it? This woman is my good friend and doesn't owe anything." Karen rushed to hug her saviour. "Richard, thank you. You've saved a poor village woman from shame." At that moment, all the visitors asked for an encore, and the director said, "Karen, can I ask you to sing again for the guests? And will you come work for me? You have such a divine voice that the whole city will only come to my restaurant, and competitors will die of envy." Karen's head was spinning from everything that was happening. So many events at once, both good and bad, all mixed up. She went back on stage and sang again. The audience immediately picked up the old familiar melody and applauded at the end again. That evening, Karen didn't take the bus home. She and Richard chatted and drank wine for a long time, and then he drove her to the village, taking a promise that she would come work for him. Her daughter called her 3 times, asking about the evening. Karen's first impulse was to tell her how painful and hurtful it was, and that it probably wasn't worth tying her fate to such disgusting people. But then she remembered Neil and his kind eyes, and decided that children are not responsible for their parents, and it's not worth ruining their happiness. So Karen cheerfully replied, "Everything's fine, Sandy. Don't worry, we had a good time." Her friend Maggie rushed over in the morning, curious about everything. "Karen, open up. Are you still sleeping? What about the farm? They'll fire you. And how did it go? Were you beautiful?" Karen smiled blissfully. "Maggie, if I tell you everything, you'll never believe it. You know who I met? My first love of my life, Richard. He's the director of that same restaurant where I sang, and he offered me a job there. Can you even imagine? From a milkmaid to a singer. It's hilarious. I can't believe it myself." Maggie gasped. "No way! The one you had a romance with in music school? Come on, Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me. I'm dying of curiosity." Karen laughed. "What's there to tell? I was a student, studying in the city, and he was too, in the vocal department. That's where we met. I fell in love with him right away. Couldn't get enough of him. He was so passionate, tender, impulsive, and very jealous. He'd give me bunches of roses and sing serenades. Then we'd fight like cats and dogs. In short, like a volcano. And then we quarrelled over something stupid. He got jealous of me, and I was mortally offended. And we parted ways. I soon met Joseph and went home with him to the village. I gave up on everything. I was foolish, young and stupid. And yesterday, I hardly recognised him. Such a stately, respectable man. So I'm thinking, should I agree or not?" Maggie even jumped up on her chair and waved her hands. "What, are you crazy? Of course you should agree. It's like winning $1 million in the lottery. Such a chance only comes once in a lifetime. You've been dreaming of becoming a singer your whole childhood. You've been obsessed with it. So here it is. Your dream is coming true. What's there to think about?" Karen hesitated. "But what about my home? What about the farm? I'm used to it here. It's all mine. It's all home." Maggie reassured Karen, saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of your house. I'll take your chickens to my place and also your dog. Go and don't even think about anything. Remember what you told your daughter Sandy. You can always come back." Karen decided to take a risk and moved to the city. Richard rented a cosy apartment for her near the restaurant and said firmly, "So, Karen, tomorrow you have your first working day, or rather evening, and today we are going to create an image for you. I see you don't have many dresses." Karen blushed and said, "What kind of dresses do I need in the village? I've already forgotten what they are, but I haven't earned enough money for dresses yet." Richard waved his hand and said, "Here you go. Consider this an advance. You are now the face of the restaurant. Its business card, so to speak, will keep up to a high standard." Karen realized that he was right. She needed to tidy herself up. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing to show herself in public. Richard took her first to a beauty salon and then to a boutique with fashionable clothes. Karen had never experienced such pleasure before. When the master's soft hands did facial treatments and massage for her, followed by a manicure, she was overjoyed. Then they refreshed her hair, and after 2 hours she came out an entirely different person. Richard even whistled and said, "Wow, Karen, you're irresistible. Really, I can imagine what it will be like when we dress you up." Karen was melting from such compliments. She didn't even recognize herself. Where did the worn-out dairymaid go? Now a beautiful, well-groomed lady looked at herself in the mirror. The first evening at the restaurant went great. The clients were delighted with the new singer. Her melodious voice and beautiful love songs set the mood for romance and added positive emotions. Sandy, upon hearing the news, was also happy for her mother. Finally, she would rest and really do what she loves. Richard fell in love with Karen more and more every day and started staying at work just to be with her for a little longer. But he still couldn't confess his feelings, as he had been married for a long time. Back then, after the painful breakup with Karen in his youth, his parents persuaded him to marry a wealthy heiress, Felicity. She was obsessed with money, knew her worth, and had a terribly capricious character. At first, family life seemed to be going well, but Richard dreamed of children, and Felicity refused to get pregnant. She took great care to prevent it and didn't want to ruin her impeccable figure. Over the years, they grew further apart, and his wife began drinking more and more. At first, it was harmless cocktails with friends, champagne and wine, but then more and more. In a drunken state, she behaved simply outrageously, causing wild scenes of jealousy and scandal. Richard often tried to appeal to her conscience. She seemed to come to her senses, but it didn't last long. Felicity led an idle lifestyle. She did nothing but hang out at social events and with friends. She blamed her husband for not paying enough attention to her and not being home often enough. Richard had long wanted to divorce her, but he still postponed it, realizing that she would definitely sink to the bottom. But now that he had met Karen, he couldn't bear to look at his wife, who had become a dull alcoholic. Karen's career was on the rise. She was making decent money, but she still didn't spend much on herself, saving it for her daughter's wedding. She wanted to contribute to the festive banquet so that she and her daughter wouldn't be seen as beggars. Sandy and Neil were doing fine too. The young man received his diploma, found a job, and they were preparing for the wedding with all their might. Only Faith was furious. Her insidious plan didn't work. She couldn't understand how this country woman managed to come up with so much money to pay for the expensive banquet in full. The woman fumed. "George, what are we just sitting around for? Our foolish son is really about to marry this girl from the village. Let's think about it. You have so many connections. We need to stop this. I'm not going to be related to Sandy and her mother. It's ridiculous." Faith's birthday was approaching, and she and her husband decided to celebrate it at their favourite restaurant. Of course, they didn't invite Sandy, so as not to embarrass themselves in front of distinguished guests. In the midst of the celebration, the host announced, "Dear guests, our new singer, Karen, will perform for you now. I assure you, her divine voice will not leave anyone indifferent." Everyone watched the stage with interest, and then she appeared. Karen looked magnificent in a long, tight ruby dress and exquisite shoes. Her long, beautiful, well-groomed hair streamed down her shoulders, and her eyes burned with mischievous fire as she really enjoyed her performances, putting her soul into every song. Karen sang a beautiful song about love and loyalty, and Faith looked at her in amazement. Recognizing the new singer as the familiar milkmaid, she was literally overwhelmed with waves of hatred and envy. There was only one thought in her head. How? How could this uncultured country bumpkin make it big? But that wasn't all. Karen recognized Faith and her husband and decided to give them a surprise in return. It was impossible to resist. When the applause subsided and the audience calmed down, Karen took the microphone again and loudly said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I take the liberty of congratulating the esteemed Faith Runette on her birthday. I have heard about her kind and responsive character, and she is truly an excellent person. Be happy. Your good deeds will surely be rewarded in full." Everyone applauded, suspected nothing, and only Faith herself blushed like a boiled crab, perfectly sensing the mockery. She wanted to grab that impudent woman by the hair right then and there, but she couldn't do that. There were respectable people all around, and she had to say thank you and applaud too. Faith drank one glass after another nervously, watching Karen's performance. She noticed that the restaurant manager personally handed her a gorgeous bouquet of roses and looked at her heartfelt. Faith seethed inwardly. "Ah, now I get it. So this is our good wizard. She probably managed to sleep with the director to avoid paying for the banquet, and she even got a job for herself in the process. She's quick, just like her daughter. Never mind. I'll tell Felicity Haber about her husband's adventures on the side and his new passion, and let's see how she pulls her hair out. And I'll explain to my son that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and his Sandy is just like her mother. It's a pity he hasn't realized it yet." The next day, Faith arranged to meet Felicity at a cafe. Knowing her passion for alcohol, she ordered strong wine and began a heartfelt conversation after drinking a glass. "You see, Felicity, I really respect you, and I couldn't help but warn you. Everyone in society knows about your husband having a mistress. It's a new singer from his restaurant, some Karen. I saw her, nothing special, and her voice is quite mediocre. I don't know where your Richard found her, honestly. Sorry for saying this to you, but you should act before it's too late. I've been married for a long time myself, and it hurts me to see such a strong and happy family like yours potentially falling apart because of some rural gold digger." Felicity's face changed and she turned pale as a sheet. "Is that true? What a scoundrel! I was wondering why he's hiding his eyes from me. So that's what it's about. Thank you, Faith, for your female solidarity. I'm going to give this social climber a piece of my mind right now. She won't want to steal any other woman's husbands from the family for a long time to come." Felicity got up decisively, paid the bill, and left with an unsteady gait. Faith kept enjoying her meal alone and felt satisfied with herself. Karen's done for now. After all, many knew about Felicity's scandalous nature. That evening, Karen was preparing for her performance in the utility room when Felicity, drunk and furious, burst in on her. Felicity's eyes burned with a mad, unhealthy fire. She pounced on Karen from behind, not giving her a chance to react, and started shouting. "You peasant trash! Did you decide to steal my husband from my family? You're a bedwarmer. Richard and I have been married all our lives, and then you showed up. Now he doesn't even look at me. He doesn't even come home. So here's what. Get out of town and go back to your backwater right now. Otherwise, I'll pull out all your hair, or do something worse. Do you understand me? Richard is mine forever. Is that clear to you?" Karen fought back and shouted, "Help! You're crazy. I'm not sleeping with your husband. We're just old friends. He offered me a job, that's all. Don't believe me. Ask him yourself. I have no reason to lie." But Felicity, enraged, couldn't be stopped. She spewed obscenities and screamed throughout the restaurant. The frightened waiter rushed in at the sound of the commotion and barely managed to separate the women. He knew the director's wife had a temper and had witnessed similar scenes before, so he tried to calm her down and lead her away. Karen cried. She had been humiliated and disgraced. They mixed her up with dirt. No, she wouldn't stay here for another minute. The woman cancelled her performance, ran to her apartment, frantically packed her suitcase, leaving behind everything that Richard had bought for her, and left home on the first train. When her sleepy friend Maggie opened the door late at night and saw Karen crying, she was stunned. "Karen, what's wrong? What happened?" The woman wept and, between sobs, said, "That's it, Maggie. I've had it. I don't want anything. Give me the keys. Tomorrow I'm going back to the farm. They humiliated me and called me a bedwarmer, and I never even thought of such a thing. I feel so bad." Maggie understood that she had to calm down her friend. She forced her inside, got out some sherry liqueur, poured shots and ordered, "Come on, drink up, and cry as much as you want afterward. Maybe it'll make you feel better. It always helps me in tough minutes." They sat in the kitchen for a long time, with Karen pouring out her heart, gradually becoming drunk and calming down. Curious, Maggie asked, "Karen, you still love him, don't you? I mean, that's why you were so upset." Karen nodded in agreement. "Of course I love him, Maggie. It's so much that my heart aches. Blood runs cold in my veins. But it's too late now. Richard is married, and that harpy won't let him go. So I need to forget him, to rip him out of my heart. But how? Tell me, how can I order myself to forget him, when I still remember his touch after all these years? And Sandy is his daughter. Do you understand? He's her father." Maggie was shocked. "What? You never told me that. I thought she was Joseph's daughter." Karen burst into tears again. "Everyone thought so, and so does our daughter. No one alive knew about it. When Richard and I broke up, I only realised a month later that I was pregnant. I was scared to death, and then Joseph started courting me. But then I found a way out. I chickened out. I didn't tell him anything, and then I started living with him. He was a good man, and he loved me. He was overjoyed when he found out I was pregnant. He loved Sandy and adored her, and I could never bring myself to tell him she wasn't his. That's how it is." Maggie whistled. "Wow, what a story. So what are you going to do? Joseph's been gone for a long time. Tell Richard about his daughter? He has a right to know." Karen waved her hand. "Why? It's been so many years. He's had his own family. And how will I explain it all to our daughter? No, Maggie, I don't want anything. I'll live as I have been, and that's the end of it. I wasn't meant to be a singer. It seems it wasn't my destiny." Richard was just as shocked when the waiter told him about Felicity's wild scandal and her visit to Karen. He reported that she had run away from the restaurant in tears, and no one had seen her since. To Richard, it seemed like his heart had stopped beating at that moment. He couldn't even imagine losing Karen. She had become the meaning of his life, his second breath. The man immediately rushed to the rented apartment. It was open. The keys were on the shelf in the hallway, and all the things were neatly folded on the couch. But Karen was nowhere to be found. Fool! Idiot! It's my fault for everything. I should have talked to Karen long ago, confessed my love to her, and get divorced already. And know what? I can imagine how hurt Karen is, how angry she is with me. She's been so cruelly humiliated. Richard went home in a rage. Felicity, as usual, was drinking whiskey and lounging in the armchair. The TV was loud. The man walked into the living room without taking off his shoes, turned off the TV with the remote, and said sharply to his wife, "Felicity, I know everything. Why did you start this ugly scandal? You hurt an innocent person." The drunk woman laughed insolently. "This is just the beginning. If she appears near you again, I swear I'll tear her hair out. She'll know how to steal husbands from families." Richard became furious. "From family? Felicity, wake up! Where do you see a family? We've been living like neighbours for a long time. We don't even have anything to talk about. You have only one friend. A bottle. That's it. I've had enough. We're getting divorced." Felicity jumped up from the armchair but stumbled and fell awkwardly right on the floor. Richard sighed and helped her up. The woman screamed angrily. "Mark my words, I'll sue you for everything. You'll be left with nothing. You know who my father is? I won't let you get a divorce." Richard decisively replied, "I don't care. Take everything. I have enough strength and brain to start my business again from scratch. Think about yourself. My advice to you is to take yourself in hand. You're hurting yourself. As for me, I don't want us to part as enemies." But the woman continued cursing and spewing curses at her husband and Karen. Richard looked at her in disgust for the last time and said, "Goodbye, Felicity. Live as you please." 3 weeks passed. Karen didn't live during this time. She just existed, like a robot. She went to the farm and back, fed her chicken and dog, and even cooked something. But all her thoughts were only about Richard. How she missed him, how she longed for him. She lacked his voice, burning eyes, and smile. She blamed herself for not telling the truth about her daughter. Maggie checked on her friend and encouraged her as best she could. "Karen, cheer up, eat something. You've become so thin and haggard. It's not good. Just don't think about him." Karen started crying at these words. "I can't. How can I not think about it? I love him. Only now have I realized it. I can't live without him. That's all. I don't even think that an old love could flare up with such force at 45. It's a shame." Maggie hugged her friend. "You're silly. It's good that you fell in love. You'll see. If he loves you too, he'll come for sure." It was early in the morning and Karen was still sleeping. Suddenly a car pulled up to the house and the dog barked desperately. The woman's heart was beating wildly and she went to open the door in a robe and slippers. Richard was standing on the doorstep with a huge bouquet of red roses and a suitcase. I'm coming to you, Karen, forever. I divorced Felicity, forgave her for her wild tantrum. I love you, Karen, like back then in my youth, even more, and I won't give you to anyone else. Can I come in? You won't turn me away." Karen burst into tears and threw herself into Richard's arms. She pressed herself against him and whispered, "And I love you, and I won't let you go anywhere else. Come in, my dear. I'll run to the farm now, milk the cow, and be back soon." Richard kissed her. "You're going there for the last time, and I'm going with you. I'll help. And then we're leaving to the city. Forever. That's enough for you, Karen, to work so hard. Now you have me." Karen laughed. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm afraid my cows wouldn't appreciate your business suit. No, wait for me at home. Make yourself comfortable. I'll be back soon." Karen quickly finished up. She was beaming like the sun. Maggie asked her, "Why are you glowing, friend? Did you finally see your sweetheart?" Karen nodded. "Yes, I did, Maggie. He got divorced, and now he's taking me away with him. We're leaving. Oh my God, I'm so happy." Her friend hugged Karen. "See, I told you, didn't I? If he loves you, he'll come back. But did you tell him about your daughter?" "Karen, you can't keep it from him. He's her father." Karen agreed. "Yes, I haven't had a chance yet, but you're right, I can't keep it from him. I'll tell him as soon as I get home. Well, goodbye, Maggie." Her friend waved goodbye. "Wishing you all the happiness, Karen. You deserve it." After her work, Karen charged in, took a shower, and already from the threshold, she smelled a delicious aroma. She looked into the kitchen and gasped. Richard, in a suit and an apron, was busy near the frying pan making an omelette. The woman laughed. "Oh, breakfast is already ready. I didn't expect it, thank you." Richard wiped his sweat. "Believe it or not, I'm the restaurant director. I didn't learn how to do it. Even this omelette has burned." They had breakfast, and Karen decided to have an honest conversation. "Richard, listen. What I'm about to say might surprise you. Sandy is your daughter. When we broke up, I realized I was pregnant, and then I met Joseph, and, you know, he didn't suspect anything. He thought our daughter was premature, born a month earlier. He loved Sandy very much, but he died early, and only I knew that she was your daughter. That's it. I know I did something wrong and unfair, but I didn't see any other way out then." The man couldn't believe it. Tears welled up in his eyes. "Oh my God, Karen, I never hoped to become a father. Felicity never wanted to give birth, but I always wanted to have children. What happiness! But your husband died a long time ago. Why didn't you find me earlier? Why didn't you tell me? I would have left everything right away." The woman just sighed. "Well, I thought you had your own family. Why bother you with all this? And who knows whether you would have believed me or not. And now, how do I tell Sandy about this? She thinks Joseph is her father, even though she doesn't remember him at all. But still, how do I explain all this to her? And what will she think of me?" Richard approached Karen, hugged her, and kissed her passionately, then whispered, "Karen, you're making life too complicated. Everything will work out on its own. You'll see. Just don't rush." From that very day on, Karen's life changed radically. As if in the fairy tale about Cinderella, whom the handsome prince finally found and tried on the slipper. She and Richard moved to the city and started living in the same rented apartment. Felicity managed to take everything away except for the restaurant, but that didn't scare them. Karen continued to sing, clients enjoyed it, and the business only grew. Richard met Sandy and Alexei. He watched his daughter and found his traits in her, a mole above her eyebrow, the same slightly sticking out ears, and his gaze. And one day, when he couldn't take it any more, he decided to talk to her. He waited for Sandy to finish work and approached her. "Sandy, let's sit down. I need to talk to you seriously. I don't know how to beat around the bush, so I'll just tell you straight. I'm your father. Your real father. Don't think I'm a scoundrel or that I left you. No, I just recently found out about this secret from your mother." Sandy was in shock and blinked frequently. "How can you be my father? I don't understand anything. And my dad, Joseph, who is he then?" "No, that's not true. Mum never—" The man interrupted suddenly. "I know, Sandy, your mother never told anyone about this, and she probably had her reasons. Don't judge her harshly. Your mother and I once loved each other just as strongly as you and Neil do. Do you understand? It's just that I was a jealous fool, and your mother is very sensitive. That's why we drifted apart. But recently we accidentally ran into each other at a restaurant. Believe it or not, I fell in love with Karen again. Or rather, I realized that I never stopped loving her, and everything in my soul turned upside down. I understand that at our age it probably looks funny and ridiculous from the outside. Sandy, I am delighted that you are my daughter. I know that time has passed and you are no longer a child, but we can make up for lost time, can't we?" Sandy moved closer to Richard and took his hand. "I don't mind. And I'm only happy for you and Mum. Thank you for taking her out of the rural routine and falling in love at your age. It's not nonsense. It's wonderful." Richard hugged his daughter. Neil and Sandy were drinking tea at his place when she told him all the news about her family. He was just amazed. Faith entered and frowned when she saw her future daughter-in-law. But her son immediately stunned her. "Mum, you won't believe it. Sandy isn't just the daughter of a milkmaid anymore. She's a rich heiress. Her father is a famous restaurateur, Richard Haber. How about that twist, huh? Maybe now you'll finally calm down and stop putting sticks in our wheels." Neil laughed, watching his mother's facial expressions as she went through a range of emotions: shock, surprise, shame, and awkwardness. Sandy was also amused, knowing her future mother-in-law would be kinder to her now. Faith quickly regained her composure, smiled sweetly, and said gently, "Okay, am I against it? Get married. You kids, we're all for it. I always said Sandy was smart. She'll make a good wife and homemaker." The young people burst out laughing because the woman seemed to have been replaced. One day, while preparing for the wedding, Sandy had the idea. "Mum, Dad, let's have a double wedding. Just imagine, Mum and I are walking down the aisle together. It will never be forgotten. Plus, we only have to have one banquet. It's a total savings." Karen blushed. "I don't know, at my age, it's embarrassing to walk down the aisle. I thought that Richard and I would quietly sign the papers and that's it. Otherwise people will laugh." Richard interrupted her. "No way, my dear. When I was young, I lost my beloved. Let me make up for it now. You didn't have a wedding with Joseph either, did you? And every woman's life should have at least one white wedding dress. So, I'm all for it. Let's surprise the whole city. And what about the people? I don't care about them. This is only our life, and it doesn't concern anyone else." The wedding day arrived, and Richard and Neil couldn't take their eyes off their loved ones. They were so happy. Sandy chose a lush flowing dress with a petticoat and a long veil, making her look like a princess giving a ball. Karen, on the other hand, wore a tight-fitting, long, snowy rhinestone-embroidered dress and pinned flowers instead of a veil, organically weaving them into her hairstyle. They both looked stunning. Sandy whispered to Karen, "Mummy, do you believe this? A few years ago we lived in the village and you milked cows. And now we're in a fancy restaurant, and we're both marrying the most loved and reliable men. Pinch me. This is some kind of fairy tale. I don't believe it." Karen hugged her daughter and said, "I can't believe it myself, dear. I'm even afraid to sleep at night. What if I wake up in the morning and all of this isn't real? I never expected to meet Richard again. So your mother-in-law helped me with this. If it weren't for that meeting in the restaurant, none of this would have happened. They say there is a silver lining behind every cloud." Meanwhile, Faith and George tried to make up with Richard and Karen to repair their previously damaged relationships. Only now did they realize that people cannot be judged by their clothes and social status. Karen and Richard were not vindictive people. Karen approached Faith peacefully and said, "Well, let's drink to the happiness of our children. Or are you still not happy about this wedding?" Faith blushed and lowered her eyes, saying, "Forgive me, Karen, for how cruelly I treated you back then. I don't know what came over me. I was possessed, and now I'm very ashamed and scared, because I could have destroyed my son's happiness with my own hands. It's a good thing Neil was smarter than my husband and me and stood firm on his own, defending his right to love." Karen smiled and said, "You know, Faith, believe it or not, I'm even grateful to you for it. Honestly, first, if I hadn't come to the restaurant then, I'd never have met Richard. And secondly, if you hadn't had a terrible scandal with Felicity, Richard and I wouldn't have dared to confess our love to each other for a long time. So, everything turned out for the best. I'm not upset, but let's stop here. Now we're one family, and I want there to be peace and quiet in it. Agreed?" Faith joyfully raised her glass and said, "Agreed."